Well, hi everybody. I have my friend Claudia here again today, and we're going to talk through some things, and maybe Claudia will have some questions at the end. So, I wanted to talk about the news. Specifically, this is because of the Tyree Nichols police murder thing that happened just recently. It made me realize it's a good thing to talk through, especially because I did some tapping about it the other day, and I wanted to talk through that. So, again, why is this part of the spiritual journey? Because I believe that the end result, the end goal of this spiritual journey is to be fully imperturbable. So, what does that mean? It means that we can be in any situation and still be at peace. So, what that means is we need to work with those situations that do not bring us peace so that we can actually find peace in those situations. So, news is part of that, right? We all experience the news in some moments, we experience it. And there's different ways that we go about it. So I'm going to talk through my journey with the news, and hopefully you'll be able to relate to some of that. So before I started this journey of doing all this inner work, I used to watch the news sometimes, but I had like a barrier. I had walls put up so I could listen to the news, understand on a mental level that it wasn't good. Most of it was not good, but I never felt it. I just intellectually knew it wasn't good news, and I would just go on with my day. As I started going through this inner work, I became more aware of how the news felt, and it felt really bad. So I had a lot of inner work still to do. I had all my childhood to work through. I had a lot of things that I was certainly not imperturbable. I was pretty reactionary. So I stopped watching the news while I went through and worked through my childhood, did a lot of inner work. Then at some point, I realized I was actually avoiding the news. And as I said, to be totally imperturbable, you want to be at peace regardless of what is happening. So I started watching the news again. Now, at this point, I was fully aware of my feelings. So I could notice how I was feeling about the news. Now, a lot of people do that already. So there might be some empaths listening, and then in which case you're probably starting at this point where you feel so much about it and you might want to avoid it. And a lot of people do avoid watching it. And that is keeping it suppressed inside of us. So instead of avoiding it, I realized in order to be imperturbable, I actually had to feel it and allow that stuck energy of those emotions to let go. So that's what I did. I used that EFT tapping technique that I talk about a lot. Not while I was watching it necessarily, but after, as something stuck in my mind, I would tap about it. And that's what I did with Tyree Nichols the other day, on actually last night. And I've done enough tapping to know that I can put myself in other people's shoes. So what I did, I used air tapping, which is something I talk about on my video, my EFT video on my YouTube channel, where I'm actually tapping on someone else virtually. So this person will be in front of me and I'm tapping on their points and I'm talking to them. So I did that last night on 3 different people. I did it on Tyree Nichols. I tapped on him as he was on the ground feeling really scared. So I tapped on him until in my mind he was at peace. Then I tapped on his mother because that's what I connected with most, that just the idea of him calling out for his mother and she knowing that after the fact, and that she wasn't able to do anything about it because she didn't hear him. So I tapped on her about how I thought she must have felt, because how I thought she must have felt is what lives inside of me. It might be not be what lives inside of her, but it's my perspective. So that's what I tapped on her about those thoughts and feelings, until in my mind she was at peace. Then I tapped on one of the policemen that was kicking him. I tapped on him, and he, in my mind, he was very angry. He had so much anger in him. He just wanted to kick someone. And that was based on his childhood. He was not in control. He wanted to be in control of someone else the way other people had been in control of him. Again, that's my perspective. Those are the thoughts that came to my mind as I was tapping on him. And I tapped on him until in my mind, he was at peace. So now, right, today's the next day. I did this tapping last night. Now, when I think about Tyre Nichols or his mother or this policeman, I am at peace. I see them as at peace. I feel them as at peace. So I am at peace thinking about them. So now I can be imperturbable around that particular experience. And that is what I try and do. And I recommend doing with all sorts of news things, but not just news, anything actually that happens in your life, right? Because all the experiences that come to us for a reason. And that reason, I believe, is for us to work with them, to be at peace with them, and then carry on with life. So that is what I wanted to share. Does anyone have any questions?
I watched the videos that were presented by the police department on TV. And to this moment, I can't imagine so much rage in somebody, in a police officer, to want to hurt somebody that bad. I watched it and I just couldn't believe what I was watching. It
Right.
was, and it wasn't just one officer, there was several officers that all had this emotion so strong that they had to hurt this person. It wasn't just subduing them because they had them on the ground. It was also a matter of hurting them. And it was shocking to me. I
Right.
just, I just had a hard time believing what I was seeing.
Right. So if you were tapping about that, those are the words you would use, right? You would tap on yourself and say something like, I just can't believe what I was watching. I can't believe someone has that much anger inside of them that they want to kick someone like that or hit them like that. So you would work through those feelings that you had. Then, if you were able to, once you came to more peace around it, then you could tap on one of those police officers themselves and say that to them, right? I can't believe how angry you were. Why would you want to do that? Right? Talk to them as if they're right in front of you and get those feelings expressed outside of you. And if you do that for long enough, both you and your imagination of him should be able to come to peace, right? And at that point, you could watch the video again and you would feel differently. And the goal in my mind would be maybe to watch it again, tap through it again until you can watch it and not feel those emotions and have those thoughts come up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it takes some work, right? It has to be conscious work to actually go ahead and do that.
Yes. It would be
Okay.
something for not only me to work on, but maybe a lot of people that watched it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I feel that's the work that we all need to do that. And then I
Yeah.
think that changes the future. How about you, Claudia?
I didn't watch it because I just can't watch that.
Right. So you're not there yet. You're at one of those phases that I talked about, right? Where
Right.
you've got the inner work still to do. You know that you feel the emotions, but you're not ready yet to step into the next phase of working through the news.
I think it's just not the news, it's what I was raised with. So I'm still working on my father being a policeman or a sheriff and seeing so much as a child. I have a lot of that still in me that I'm working on.
Yeah. And that's okay. That's just part of the journey.
Yes.
But you have an awareness of where the journey is. And at some point in your future, you might be willing to step into that once you have worked through more of your childhood.
Yes. Yes. And I did see a picture of him on Facebook of him smiling, and he just didn't look violent. He just looked like a normal, unviolent person. So it did connect me to my father, and knowing that I needed to tap more on my childhood.
Right. So that's why it came up for you. It came up for you to go back and look at your childhood. It came up for Paul to look through those thoughts and feelings that came up for him. It came up for me to do that tapping I did, right? we all have different experiences from the different things that we experience in the news.
Yeah. Yeah. Our
Yes.
perception.
Yeah. Any other questions about inner work?
Well, for me, and it just something that just popped into my mind, for me to work on the feelings and emotions of something like that brings up something that happened in my childhood. And it was a altercation with a neighbor, and where we were in the street fighting. And I didn't think about it in relation to this, but now I do. I'm thinking of the feelings that I've held on to that for years. And then to see on TV what was happening with this fella, it kind of things bubbled up.
Right. So those memories and those emotions are still living inside of you and got triggered by this event. So that just means that that's extra work for you to do. Right.
Right.
You get to work on this Tyree Nichols event and the emotions and the thoughts and that from childhood, because they are connected inside of you.
Yeah.
And once you release both, next time you experience something like that on the news or in person, you will not react as intensely. Your thoughts, your feelings will be different, and you will be more imperturbable.
Okay.
Okay. And that's why Claudia has the memories with her dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Things to work on there as well.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Nothing else? Anything else?
I see we're partners, but his needing to tap with you is somewhat the bubbling up of other events in his life that happened 20 years ago.
Oh,
And he brings it up at least once a month of how someone has hurt him and he needs to tap on that, which all correlates with those inner feelings of sort of being beaten up. You don't have to be beaten up physically to be beaten up. You can be beaten up mentally, mindfully. And it's amazing to me how much things like Tyree can bring up the memories of other people and do one or two things. Either you are imperturbable, peace with yourself, or it's going to draw out more of that negative energy and cause more, not just policemen, but other paths for people to continue that.
Right.
So,
It's either you're either re-establishing that signal each time, you're strengthening that signal inside of you, right? If you get stuck in those thoughts and those feelings and they kind of replay over and over in your mind, it's like creating a rut in the road. It just gets deeper and more established the more you go down that rut, which is that neural pathway going down to that memory and those emotions. However, you can also work on it. So if you tap about it, you're actually leveling out that rut. You're letting the soil fill in that rut in the road.
yeah,
Means that then that the signal is just being less established, right? It's no longer putting off a big signal. So over time, you won't attract those same events into your life, and you won't have those same thoughts come up. The same memories won't come up anymore. Once that rut is totally cleared, you just won't even get the same thoughts anymore. And I know that's really hard to even believe, but it's true. You just have to do the work to realize that it's true. So yes, and if you realize that it's happening, right, that's the first step. Realizing, oh, this feels kind of like that thing from my past. Then you can realize that that's when you're reestablishing that signal. So do something about it at that point, and do some tapping or something to smooth it out so that you don't attract it as much in your future.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and for me, working with you, the little bit that we have, and I understand the value of tapping, and I understand a little more about what it is. Didn't know much about it when you and I started working together, but and I see the value of it, but I see a really strong value in being able to talk about issues that some of the issues that I have are things that weren't ever talked about for over 40 years. And
Right. So even just opening it up and looking at it just through words, you're saying is helpful.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Um, I know some of the issues that I've had. I was able to talk to my wife, of course. I talked with my sister one time, and that was it in over 40 years. So I had a lot bottled up. And in talking about these as I'm tapping, I realized how valuable that was in itself, just being able to pour it out of me, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and I felt a lot of release just from that.
Yeah. So yes, the talking can be beneficial, right? I mean, that's kind of like talk therapy. That's somewhat along the lines of that. It's the tapping itself as well, the physical act of tapping on those meridian systems, on those points, releases it from the nervous system in a way that just talking itself does not do. So it's more beneficial to do the tapping than just talking it through, even though talking it through feels good.
Well, I definitely appreciated your guidance with the tapping as I was talking, because I was getting so heavy into the story that I would lose track of where I was tapping.
Right.
And you,
And
and
that's
you
what we
kinda-
do, right? When we
yeah,
get caught up in the story, that's when we're deepening the rut, right? We're caught up in it and we're just going down that same rut again and again. That's why the tapping is so essential, because that is what's leveling out the rut.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me, Paul and Claudia. It's lovely to have you here. And these meetings are open to anyone. If anyone wants to join us next week or the following weeks, please do so. And we'll talk to you then. Bye bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.